Good morning, all.
Morning.
My name is Marie Dupree, and I have been coming here, and Keith has been coming here since my son is going to be 53, and I came 2 weeks before I gave birth to him. So that's how long I've been involved in this society. Um, Lots of changes, lots of movement. We have this wonderful place now that we're meeting. We had the barn before. Um, we keep growing and we keep going on, and that's very important for a Unitarian Universalist congregation. We have been over almost 200 years. On December 9th, 1922, which happens to be my birthday, but I'm not going to be 200 years old. Anyway, I'm treasurer of the congregation. I've been treasurer many different years. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. Please silence your phones if you've not done already. I don't know my phone is signed. And we have been gathering here together for 200 years. And as we work to build a more just world, we respectfully acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional Pecosket people's land. I'm so glad that you're able to join us this morning because you are a central part to our celebration this morning. Whether this is your first meeting or a thousands, which we probably fall in that thousands group, whether you're in person or online, we welcome you because you are with us. If you're new to our community, joining us in line, we invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat if you're comfortable. At the conclusion of today's service, you will have a chance to participate. This is for the online people, a breakout group of individual connections and deeper check-ins. If you're new and here in person, please fill out the visitor card at the table next to the exit and consider staying a few minutes or longer for coffee and conversation. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We all grow. We are all growing, learning, loved, just as you are. We welcome to have you here. There's two announcements that I need to make. If you're considering joining the membership of UUCD, now is the time. Reverend Kathleen will meet with those interested after the service this morning. And the nursery is open on Sundays from 9:50 to 11:10 downstairs. And the nursery is downstairs on the first classroom across from the bathroom. And welcome, all of you. And I'd like to give a special welcome to Mary Collins and her husband Thad. She does not go by the name Mary Collins now. I have no idea.
My maiden name,
Mary Borman. And Thad Ring is her husband. And they're on their way to New Hampshire, and where her mother is spending this summer. And they live in Fairfax, Alexandria, Virginia. So those of us who have remembered Mary Collins, thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning online. It is so good to have you with us. Let's take a moment and celebrate the fact that we are together, that we have our former director of religious education, Mary, with us today. We have faces we may not have seen in person for a while, and we're so glad to see you. There are new faces here. There are some that you see perhaps every time you're here, but it's still good to look someone in the eye and to say, I am so glad you are here. I am grateful for this community. Online, greet each other in the chat box. And here, let us move just a little bit. Move those bodies. Say hello to someone you haven't said hello to in a while. Let's greet one another. We will continue to celebrate being in community and continue greeting one another after the service when we invite you to stay and have time for coffee. And I think there might even be some special refreshments there in the kitchen that I saw, but save this energy and let it explode once again when the service is over. It really is so good to be together. So let's join our voices in song, rising in body or spirit, as we sing hymn number 1008. You'll find it in that soft covered hymnal. The lyrics are also on the screen. When our heart is in a holy place, and Jerry and I have spoken about this. This is not a dirge. We're not going, when our heart, no, we are happy, we are excited, and we are gonna sing it like we mean it. Let's sing together.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell the story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Thank you. I'd like to invite one of our service coordinators, Marcia Brooker, to come and lead us in our chalice lighting this morning.
Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant.
To dwell together in peace,
to speak and speak the truth of love,
and celebrate life. And for children who may be joining us online, and for all of us here, for truly don't we want to be young at heart, let's join together in our unison children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. This morning, I have a story that I'd like to share with you. It's adapted from the story, The Three Questions by Leo Tolstoy. It's going to be just a little bit different. And I have a special part because I need a little bit of help at some point in the story about midway. So all of you online, I need your help as well. I'm going to be counting on you, though I won't be able to hear you. So I'd like for this side of the room to be wind. So when I talk about wind, I just need you to either you can use your hands or you can just use your mouth, but let's. Okay, I'm going to need you to practice. Okay. And the wind. Oh, wow. Now that was like thunder too, which was excellent. Excellent. I love it, Bob. Thank you. Online, you can choose to be wind or you can be rain. Rain on this side. Okay. Okay, good. You don't even need practice. When I get to that part, you'll know. So there was once a child named Nikki. And Nikki sometimes was really feeling uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, but I don't always know the best way to do that. And Nikki's friends really understood. They understood the dilemma and they wanted to help. You know, if only I could find the answers to my 3 questions, and then I would know what to do. What's the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Now, Nikki's friends considered that first question, and the heron said, well, to know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance. The monkey said, you'll know when to do things if you watch and you pay close attention. And then the dog said, you can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need others to keep watch and help you decide when to do things. So Nikki thought for a moment. And then he asked the second question, well, who is the most important one? Those who are close to heaven, said the heron. Oh, those who know how to heal the sick, said the monkey. Those who make the rules, said the dog. Nikki thought another moment and then asked the third question, what is the right thing to do? Flying, said the heron. Having fun all the time, said the monkey. Fighting, barked the dog. Nikki really had to think for a while. Nikki loved their friends and knew they were all trying their best to help answer the questions, but their answers really didn't seem quite right. So an idea came to Nikki, and that was to ask Leo, the turtle. Now, Leo had lived a very long time, and surely Leo would know the answers that Nikki was looking for. So Nikki hiked high into the mountains where the turtle lived, all alone, and found Leo digging a garden, digging deeply. Turtle was old. Digging was really hard for Leo. I have 3 questions. I came to ask for your help. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. and he went on with his digging. At last, Nicky said, "You must be tired, Leo. Let me help you." And the turtle gave them the shovel and said, "Thank you." Now, because it was easier for a young child to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nicky just kept digging until all of the garden rows were finished. But suddenly, and here's your part, the wind started to blow wildly, and rain burst from the clouds. The clouds grew darker and darker. There was more wind. There was more rain. And as they ran for shelter, Nicky heard a cry for help. A cry for help. Running down the path, Nicky found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen branch. Carefully, Nicky carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg. But the storm raged on with wind and rain and more wind and more rain. And then the panda said, "Wait, where's my child? Where is my child?" So Nicky ran out, ran down the path, ran into the forest where he found the panda's child. Nicky carried him inside and made him warm and dry. Leo smiled when he saw what Nicky had done. And the next morning, the sun was shining, the birds were singing, all was well with the world. In fact, the panda's leg was healing very nicely, and she thanked Nicky for their help. At that moment, the heron, the monkey, and the dog all showed up because they wanted to make sure everyone was all right. Nicky felt a great peace inside. Nicky had wonderful friends. Nicky had saved the panda and her child, but still had not found answers to those 3 questions. So they asked Leo one more time. And the old turtle looked at the child. "But your questions have been answered." "They have?" "Yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig deep, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help. The most important time was the time you spent digging the garden. The most important one at that moment was me. And the most important thing to do was to help me with my garden. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby. The most important thing to do was to take care of them. Remember, there is only one important time, and that is now. The most important one is always the one you are with. And the most important thing is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear child, are the answers to what is most important in the world. And that is why we are here." This ends the story. I thank you for listening and for playing with me. Let's just take a deep breath together. And let's move into that sacred time of sharing the personal milestones of our lives. Another moment of silence together. Oh, let us hold all that has been shared here. Families growing, honoring lives gone, but memories with us forever. Reuniting with family, seeing people we haven't seen for a while, the joy that brings to us, celebrating years of life together with those we love. There is so much here to celebrate and to hold. So let us do that in a moment of silence together. Staying seated and continuing in this mindset of reflection and sacred community, let us sing together our hymn of reflection. And I encourage you to look on the screen for the words so that you can focus on that. We are going to sing this again in reflection. Jerry, would you lead us?
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be filled. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
It is now time for our weekly donation to the congregation. For people who are not here, you can send a check care of UUCD at our address here on Cloppard Ridge Road. And for everyone here, you can dig into your pocket and contribute to the good works of this congregation.
Some of you know that I did my doctoral studies at New York Theological Seminary in the Morningside Heights section of Manhattan. I decided to do my studies there, a predominantly African American student body, and I believe I'm almost 100% certain that I was the only atheist attending New York Theological Seminary. I went there because I know that it is friendly and accepting of Unitarian Universalists. I have colleagues who went there. So when I went for my interview and I met with the dean, Dr. Moody Shepherd, and I said to her, you know, Dr. Moody Shepherd, you need to know that my beliefs are quite different from those of yourselves and pretty much everyone here. I'm an atheist. And I almost whispered it. And Dr. Moody Shepherd, who, by the way, had marched alongside John Lewis, Dr. Moody Shepherd is a force to be reckoned with. And she said, good, good. We need you. Doesn't matter. Our values are what matters. Are you sure, Dr. Moody Shepherd? Yes, we want you here. And so I was there. And in my second year, it was time for the convocation. And I saw that they were publicizing it as an interfaith convocation, which I found quite interesting. I had yet to meet any other non-theist or Jewish or Muslim student. So I called the organizer. I see this is interfaith. This is wonderful. Who do you have on the schedule? Well, we have the AME pastor. We have a Catholic priest. We have a Pentecostal preacher. I said, okay, it sounds ecumenical to me. You know, I would love to be involved. I'd like to do the opening words. I didn't share that I was an atheist. And they said, okay. So we went, and there we all were. And right before they did an anointing of all of the students, it was my turn. And so what I chose to share was a piece by Algernon D. Black. Algernon D. Black died in 1993 at the age of 92. He was a teacher and the leader emeritus of the New York Society for Ethical Culture in Manhattan. Mr. Black, a liberal social critic, was the society's foremost elder statesman. He spoke out on social issues like equal housing opportunities and health conditions in Harlem. For 4 decades, he was heard on radio station WQXR in broadcasts of the Ethical Society's weekly Sunday meetings from its headquarters on Central Park West. He headed and sat on numerous committees and panels and boards in the city concerned with racial discrimination and human rights. In fact, in 1966, looking for a chairman of his new civilian complaint review board for New York City's police department, Mayor John V. Lindsay turned to Algernon Black. He wrote a piece called "This is a Call to the Living." This is a call to the living, to those who refuse to make peace with evil, with the suffering and the waste of the world. This is a call to humanity, not the perfect, to those who know their own prejudices, who have no intention of becoming prisoners of their own limitations. This is a call to those who remember the dreams of their youth, who know what it means to share food and shelter, the care of children and those who are troubled, to reach beyond barriers of the past, bringing people to communion. This is a call to the never-ending spirit of the common person, our essential decency, our integrity beyond all education and wealth, our unending capacity to suffer and endure, to face death and destruction and to rise again and build from the ruins of life. This is the greatest call of all, a call to faith, a call to a faith in humanity. That's what I shared at the convocation. There were a few surprised looks, but I had a lot of people approach me afterward and thank me for bringing this voice, this perspective, this shared value to the space. At the same time that I was doing my doctoral studies there, I was serving as executive director for Yale Humanist community. This was an organization for students and those in the greater New Haven area who were not religiously affiliated and yet sought community and service. Hello. Part of Yale Humanist community, part of that organization and my job was not only engaging with the students and faculty and New Haven residents, but also with the chaplain's office at Yale. The chaplain's office, where we had chaplains from a variety of religious backgrounds, and they held very different beliefs than I. But at Yale Humanist community, we claimed a bold vision that we worked on together. People united by values rather than divided by beliefs. I want you to listen to that one more time. People united by values rather than divided by beliefs. It was something that I used at my time at New York Theological Seminary. I had that as a mantra the entire time I was there. And I will tell you, it continues to inspire me as a vision for ministry today as a Unitarian Universalist. Let's break down for just a moment beliefs and values. Beliefs, those are the convictions that we generally hold to be true. And usually, it's without any actual proof or evidence. Our beliefs are often, not always, but often connected to religion. Religious beliefs don't stem naturally. They're taught. They're often taught from childhood. And the fact is that most of our beliefs are related to culture and or religion. Religious beliefs could include a belief that God created the world in 7 days, or that Jesus was the Son of God. And there are religions other than Christianity, of course, that have their own set of beliefs. And the non-religious beliefs could include all people are created equal, not a religious belief. All people are created equal, and that would guide us perhaps to treat everyone, regardless of their gender or religion or race or education, with equal respect. But conversely, someone might believe, I know people who would not believe that all people are created equal, which of course results in behaviors that are racist and sexist, both the values and attitudes. Beliefs are basically, if we just look at it like this, they're assumptions. Beliefs are assumptions that we make about the world. Values. Values are principles. Values are ideals that we hold to be important. Concepts like equality and honesty and effort, perseverance, loyalty, stewardship of the environment, and many, many others. If you have an order of service at home, if you happen to print one out when it came with the link, or if you have one here, I want you to just look at, I think it's the very back page. How many of you know that every single week on the back, we have the Unitarian Universalist principles printed here? How many know that? I hope most everyone. And now you do, if you didn't before. How often do you look at those? Every week? once in a while, when it's pointed out, these are our values. These are the ideals that we hold to be important as a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Every week they are here to remind us these are the values that we gather around. Every individual has a set of values through which they look at the world. Values could be said to be the guiding principles in one's life. But I want to tell you something. No matter what is printed on a piece of paper, no matter how much we might talk to each other about, oh, I value education, I value, childcare. Our deepest values are revealed by how we actually live our lives. Talk is cheap. It's how we live our lives. That will reveal to you someone's deepest values. When I did my research, the focus was in bringing humanists or non-religious people in Connecticut. All my research was done in Connecticut with religious adherents, primarily from interfaith groups in Connecticut, of which there were more humanist groups, by the way, than there were interfaith groups in this state. My research was about bringing the two. Could these two come together? And could they enter engagement by leading with values? I wasn't asking anyone to abandon their beliefs. You didn't have to abandon your assumptions, but don't lead with beliefs. This is what I would tell the focus groups. Lead with your values. See, what happens when we lead with beliefs, there's a tremendous negative potential to become immediate and often impenetrable barriers. If we lead with those assumptions, barriers immediately come up. If we lead with values, the door is open. Doesn't mean someone won't shut it in your face, but the door is open. It's been said that values actually come from beliefs, they come out from beliefs, but I like to flip that on its head. I actually like to think of it as a tree, as each of us as trees. And I think our roots are our values. The strongest part of the tree, the root. Remember the wind? Remember the rain? Branches fall off, leaves fall off, fruit dies, flowers die, the fragrance dissipates. The roots remain strong. So I like to think of the roots as our values. It's not necessarily what we see immediately. We see the leaves, the buds, the flowers, we see the branches. We have to be able to dig. We have to be able to look beyond what is obvious, to really find the roots, to see the roots. And in there, we will see the common ground, what indeed we share. So the question in my research was, can we look beyond what is apparent when we gathered together, non-religious and religious? Could we look beyond what seemed obvious, the assumptions we were going to make about one another, in order to dig deeper, in order to get to the roots, the foundational values? And I will tell you, my research said yes. Now, it was interesting because both groups were very wary of the other. They could not believe there could possibly be any social justice issues that they could work on together because of their beliefs. And yet, those I surveyed, once we spoke, once we dug deeper, were willing to cooperate with each other and collaborate on anti-racism, environmental stewardship, prison reform, gun violence, immigration, and religious freedom for all Americans. There's a difference between belief-based decision-making and values-based decision-making. And I'd ask us to look at, what are we doing? What are each of us doing as individuals? What are we doing as a religious community? What are we basing our decision making on? Because when we make decisions based on beliefs, we're using our past experience. We're using all that we've learned to make the decision. Not a bad thing, but then we're perpetuating the beliefs. We are feeding the beliefs. We're perpetuating the beliefs. And we're perpetuating ways to make decisions based on the past. Values-based decision making allows us to sever that link when it's appropriate and focus on what we want to experience in the future. What do we want UUCD to be in the future? What do we want to experience as a religious community in the future? What do we want to consciously create rather than subconsciously? In 2014, a community for secular families called Kansas City Oasis. Has anybody heard of Oasis? Mostly in the Midwest and some in Canada. They're these secular communities. They look a lot like this. They founded in 2014 with a goal of cultivating an environment where people could be part of a community regardless of faith, regardless of their beliefs. And their first core principle, their first core value, people are more important than beliefs. I quote, "Shouldn't matter if we worship the same, if we vote the same." Whoa. Whoa. Stop the presses. Shouldn't matter if we worship the same, vote the same, or like to eat at the same barbecue restaurant, because Kansas City, they love their barbecue. That is on their website, truly. Our common humanity is enough to bind us together in meaningful community. And I continue to quote, "And yes, we are fully aware that this is also a belief, but we're just fine with a little irony in our lives." I love that. I love that. People are more important than beliefs. It does sound like Unitarian Universalism. Haven't you heard our focus is on deeds, not creeds? This is what we're talking about. Deeds are value-based decision-making, not creeds, not beliefs, not assumptions. Think back to something I just said a little bit ago. Our deepest values are revealed not in the beliefs we espouse, not in the values we talk about, but how we actually live our lives. And that's not just a personal, that's congregational. How we, UUCD, lives in Danbury, how we live as a religious community, that shows our true values. I think it's most evident when there is some kind of emergency situation. And boy, we've had a lot of natural disasters over the past several years. And when there's relief assistance required, I can think back to one that really struck me, and that was, if you remember, the hurricane relief in Texas, especially in the Houston area, just a few years ago. I was so taken with what I witnessed. The Salvation Army and Samaritan's Purse, well-known Christian organizations, relief organizations. Yes, they assisted. And you know who else assisted? The Humanists of Houston, Foundation Beyond Belief, Atheists of Texas, all doing the same work, all putting compassion as a priority and a value, truly revealing what their values are. Because values provide insight, they guide our decision making. Most of you know I just returned a few days ago from Greece. And I was there because my 3-year-old grandson was being baptized. Why did we wait until he was 3 years old? Well, because of COVID. So this was 3 years in the making. It was beautiful, but I want to admit to you that it was difficult. Because when I first arrived at the baptism, and of course we don't speak the language, my family, we were the only non-Greeks there, with about 70, 75 people. And all I knew was what I was being told by the person sitting behind me who was translating. I heard about renouncing Satan. I heard about things that were so not what I believe. And I made assumptions. And it wasn't until I could truly focus on the most important time, now, and see the beauty of the surroundings, the beauty in the hearts of the people who were there, and all of us sharing the value of caring for a child in the family. It was then that I let my values lead, rather than my beliefs and my assumptions. The dancing and the food helped a lot. We are at a time in our history, in this country and the world, where the problems to be solved are just crying out for cooperation and collaboration. And it seems those in power want nothing to do with that, right? I think we're at a very sad time. Not hopeless, but very sad. And also not unlike other times in our nation's history, when the divide between people of differing ethnicities and religious beliefs and political affiliations has become dangerously deep, dangerously deep. In some ways, it's just so much easier to band together with people just like ourselves, isn't it? Just band together with people exactly like us and demonize those who are not. To brush with that broad brush. All those from a particular political affiliation, all those from a particular religious affiliation. It's so easy. And yet it is exactly in times like these when we are called by all of those who've come before us, Unitarian and Universalist women and men, great religious leaders, perhaps maybe even some of your ancestors. And we're called by our best selves, the very best of ourselves, to be willing to engage with those not exactly like us, but who do hold shared values. Shared values found in some of the most sacred and singular texts of different religions, different ethical perspectives, from the Torah, the Quran, Guru Granth Sahib, to the writings of Carl Sagan. When we are willing to explore ethical values in a way that digs below the surface, that goes beyond assumptions, when we can recognize that the way we really live our lives reveals our truest values, then we can more easily engage leading with values. We will be engaging with those whose truth may not be the same as ours. And yet the values of mental health care and literacy and clean water and alleviating poverty and homelessness and hunger are places where we can act together. We can come together and we can make a difference because we lead with our values. That's how we can realize a vision of people united by values rather than divided by beliefs. I will posit that that is how we as a religious community, as the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Danbury, can grow. We talk about growth. I believe that that is how we can grow in spiritual depth as well as in numbers. I am suggesting work that is extremely challenging. It's uncomfortable. And yet, I think perhaps it is absolutely necessary in order for us to go beyond simply surviving the shrinking religious landscape that is happening, that we cannot deny. Go beyond that to a place of thriving. It's going to take conversation, a lot of conversation, and conversation with listening to understand, not listening to reply. That's a challenge. It will require patience, commitment, and risk-taking. There was an opportunity that just popped into my email inbox 2 days ago. It came from All Souls Unitarian Universalist congregation in New London, Connecticut. It came from their assistant minister. You are invited. We are all invited, every Unitarian Universalist in Connecticut, to a Zoom workshop. And I am going to encourage you, and I'm going to push. I will attend. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And it just popped into my inbox. That congregation in New London has invited an organization called Braver Angels. I had not heard of it. Has anybody heard of Braver Angels? Oh, good. Okay. So they've invited Braver Angels, which is a grassroots organization whose mission is to bring Americans together to bridge the partisan divide and strengthen our democratic republic. So they're going to do a Zoom workshop on how we can better look within. I take that as digging deep, and develop strategies for engaging politics without demonizing. Wow, what a concept. Wow. This will happen in September, and I will be on that call. And I want to encourage anyone who can do that. This is how we live our values. This is how we learn to lead with our values. That call to dig deep, it's manifest in a poem that I have kept at my desk for 25 years. It reminds me of Algernon Black's piece that I shared, because I believe it's a call to the living. I have shared it many times. I know I've shared it with you. It's called The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. But I want you to listen to it today like you've never listened to it before. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. And if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. Doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. I want to know if you've touched the center of your own sorrow, if you've been opened by life's betrayals, or you've become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. If you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us, be careful, be realistic. Remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't even interest me if the story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal, but not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty, even when it isn't pretty every day. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine. Can you do that and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes? Because it doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. Doesn't interest me who you know or where or what or with whom you've studied. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. And I want to know if you can be alone with yourself. And if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. As the minister of this congregation, I want to know if we are willing to dig deep, to not immediately dismiss someone based on their differing beliefs or even political affiliation. Are we willing to discover the roots that represent foundational values and embrace the common ground wherever we may find it? Are we willing, truly willing, to expand our idea of what beloved community is in this most important time? Now, this is a call to faith. This is a call to faith in humanity, and may it be so.
I feel like we should just sit and take that all in for a minute. We're going to extinguish the chalice. And if you'll all join me, we extinguish this chalice. Until we are together again.
Let's rise in body or spirit and sing our hymn of celebration again, not a dirge. We are picking up the tempo because this song is number 1010. The words will be here. We give thanks. How can we give thanks if we're going to give thanks with bright and joyful voices joining together.
Give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and far away, for this time we share with love and care. Give thanks for this precious day. Give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and this far away, for this time we share with love and care. Give thanks for this precious day.
I share with you these closing words from my colleague Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Shalom. Salam. Amen. Blessed be to each and all. Namaste.